I've always been in church. From the moment I was born, church has been a part of who I was. I was serving, sharing, involved, just being a light for Jesus. I had a great life. Everything was awesome. Eventually, my family and I embarked on a huge change. We moved all the way from my hometown of Murray, Kentucky, all the way to the Czech Republic over in Europe. We lived in a small town of about 30,000 called Ostrava, and we spent about 2 years there. And then after that, we moved from Czech Republic all the way to China, and I spent about 2.5 years there. And after spending 2.5 years in China, we finally moved here. And as I think about every time that I moved and every change that occurred, I would always change with the change. When we moved to Europe, I remember I was one of the only Americans there. I was one of the few that spoke English, and so in order for me to become like the Europeans, I had to start talking like them, start walking like them. Eventually, I tried to conform to them so that way I could just fit in, because I wanted to fit in so bad. And same with China, it was a little less, but I just remember always wanting to conform and be like them because, hey, I was the new kid. Nobody knew who I was, nobody knew anything about me. And I remember I never lost the sense of being that light for Jesus. I never lost that, but I remember every time that we moved, that would kind of decrease because I would let these people and the way they lived and their everything about them, in a sense, and trying to be like them, let that become more important than who Jesus was, church and in the Word and stuff like that. And so eventually that would start to creep out, and I never, like I said, never really let it, completely go away. I knew the difference between right and wrong, and I did my best to choose right, but it was never as much as it was before I moved. Then finally, when we moved to McDonough, where I've been living for the past 5 years, I remember my first or second day here, and I remember walking, it was 7th grade. I walked in and I was scared out of my mind. I was so just, who are these people? Are they going to be like me? Are they going to like me? Am I going to be, what can I do to be like them? How can they like me right off the bat? Because I so wanted to conform. I remember even one of the, students there asking me like, hey, do you cuss? And I was, in my head, I'm like, no, I don't cuss. I never cussed in my life. That was something that my parents taught me and I learned in church. You don't do that kind of stuff. And I said, oh yeah, I cuss. And knowing I never did, but I wanted to do everything I can to make sure that they would like me because, like I said, I was the new kid. And so finally, after covering up for so long, I finally go to this camp. It was back in 2012. It was over summer, and it was like a 2-3 day camp. We go. It was with this church. It was awesome. Had a great time. I was able to give everything that I was, 100% of me, all of me, to Jesus, and it was awesome because, like, this is it. This is what I've been waiting to do. This is who I am. This is awesome. Come Saturday, when it's time to go home, I'm like, I've got to go back. I've got to go back. The same people, the same friends, the same school, the same thing. They haven't changed. I have. And I had to decide, was I going to let the change that I experienced, being that light for Jesus, letting that finally come back, stay in me, or was I going to allow them to cover that up and change me and go back to the way that I was, go back to, who I was before and be like them? And I went back. I let camp kind of, fall away. It went in the back of my head. I forgot most of the things that I'd learned. And just go back in the same routine of being like them, talking like them, walking like them, and just not being me. And so after years of covering up, I finally, the summer of my junior year, I'm like, all right, this is it. Something has to change. I'm done with, acting like them, be like them. I want to be me. And so we went to camp again with church, and I go to a bunch of different conferences, and it was awesome because I finally was like, I got so full of Jesus and so full of the Word that when it came time to go back to school that junior year, I didn't have to change because I had determined that I wasn't going to let them change me. I was going to be who I was. I was going to be that light for Jesus, and I was going to do everything that I knew was right and not let anything of this world, overcome me. And it was awesome because people began to respect me, to not look at me differently. They began to see me for who I was, and I don't know if they loved it, but they didn't force me to change, and it was awesome. So that was my junior year. Come back, senior year, it was even better. I mean, I had so many opportunities because the great thing about it is when you begin to seek God, when you begin to follow after the things of God, through prayer, through the Word, um, through remembering what you learned at camp, um, and do the things that that cause you to seek Him, He begins to reward you. Like, great things happened to me when I finally said, okay, God, I'm going to live for you and I'm going to be who you called me to be, because we've all been called. We all have such a special purpose and plan according to 1 John 3:1. And when you finally step into that calling and you allow everything that God is and what He wants to do through you, it's awesome. Great things begin to happen to you. People begin to start talking to you, like so many opportunities. Like I'm going to Georgia Tech. Like, that's a huge accomplishment for me. It's because of that I finally said, okay, look, I'm done with being like everyone else, but I'm going to be me. I'm going to be Montana. And that was awesome because I didn't have to worry about conforming. I didn't have to worry about who these people were, but I was able to be me. And yeah, some people may not have liked it, and some people may have thought, well, who does he think he is? But I didn't care because I knew who I was and I knew who God had called me to be. So my challenge to you is, remember who you are. Know who God has called you to be, and even though change may come, even though things may happen, don't change. But Jesus talks about how though you may have trials and tribulation, don't let your heart change. Don't let your heart be worried. But stay who you are and stay who God has called you to be. Because you have such a special purpose and plan. In order to fulfill that, you have to be you. You can't be someone else and fulfill your calling. You have to be you. So I encourage you, when you go back to school, when something new happens, embrace the change, but remain the same. I'm Montana Ray, and that's my story.